Hey folks, Carl here and welcome to episode 4 of Amusing Hobbies, Centurion. Hey folks, Carl here and welcome to episode 4 of Amusing Hobbies, Centurion. Hey folks, Carl here, future Carl. So some of you may have noticed in those last couple of clips, this is not a Centurion. This is a Conqueror Mark 1 by Amusing Hobbies. Welcome to episode 4. Okay folks, so like I said, welcome to episode 4. I did need to look up at the start, before I started, of what episode we were actually on, because it has been a little time. Real life has got in the way, unfortunately, and everything is now settled again. And as you can see, we have finished the main body. The turret is now all done, the main gun. Aerials are all on there. The gun is also on there. The upper hull is all finished, fire extinguishers are on, everything is in place, and we are now literally just waiting for these. So I'm going to get this moved out of the way a moment. So we are going to work on the tracks. This is all that's left to do, to get these painted up. Well, we're not actually going to do any painting on these. We are going to be using some of the Pinnacle pigments. And we're just going to mix some of these with a bit of water. So we've got plenty of colours to choose from. We're going to just mix these up with some water. We're going to put like a base colour down. We're wanting something nice and dark. We'll probably go for something like that as the base, and then we're going to add some highlights with these two. So we're going to get gradually lighter. We may even throw in a little bit of the European earth in there. I don't know yet, because it is obviously desert colours. So I'm going to get all this prepped and ready. So I'm going to get some tubs of water and stuff, get it all ready, and we shall be back in a moment. Okay folks, so we have everything we need. We have our 3 pigment colours that we're going to be using, which are these 3. A brush, a little bit of water, and 3 pots for mixing. As you can see, I have 3 pots here, and we've already been using some already because we have done a quick trial and a little bit of track, which is here. So this is going to look awfully pale at the moment on this camera. So there are in fact the 3 colours are on there. If we flip it over, you can see a little bit more detail there. Very lightly over the top of there we have put some very small amounts of dark iron. Now looking at this, I don't think it's quite dark enough for what we're wanting, so I am probably going to add a little bit of black powder into this track just to darken it up a little bit more. I don't know, let's see what it looks like on a big piece when we are done. So I'll put that to one side for a moment. So all we're literally doing, we're starting off with our base colour, which is this one, which we're going to be using medium mud. So I'll get these 2 out of the way, because this is the one we've been using for medium mud. As you can see, there's already some in there. The good thing about powders when you wet them is they don't evaporate, they stay there. The water evaporates, but the powders don't, so you probably just need to add a little bit of water in there just to soak it all up again and turn it back into a paste, like so. And this of course will work with any pigments. I just happen to be using the pigments I've got, and there are many manufacturers out there of different types of pigment, and we want it quite pasty, quite thick, so don't add too much water. So pretty much like that, so it will stay on the brush if need be. And then all we're doing is we are literally just going to dab it on to these tracks like so, and we're just going to cover the track completely That's why the tissue's down here, so we don't make a mess of our bench. And we are actually just going to dab it on and work our way along the track, and making sure we get every bit in there and covered like so. Making sure we get the ends, the pieces at the edges, pieces in between, so that when the track does bend, we've actually got dust into the cracks on there as well. And we are literally just going to work our way all the way along the track. What I've mixed here is going to be nowhere near enough, so we will have to mix some more in a minute. So like I say, just keep on working in, dab, dab, dab. That's all you need to do. Get it completely covered. With this being the base colour, this is where we want most of it down. And of course, once we finish this side, we've got to flip it over and do the same again on the other side. So keep on working. I'm going to take this halfway along. You don't want to sit here and watch me brush this whole thing, because we'll be here all blooming day. Gone halfway across, and just literally flip it over. And work our way back along the track. Dab, dab, dab. That's literally all as we're doing it. We'll go quite. This has actually gone a lot further than I was expecting it to. But we are almost out. So we will mix a little bit more, not a huge amount, because we're just going to go to the end of there for now. So we're going to get something like this, a little spoon. Tap the lid to get all the dust off the top of the lid. Open it up. A little scoop, like so. All we're going to need. Drop it in there. Tiny little bit of water, like so. A few drips. A little bit more. Just keep adding the water to it until you've got the consistency that you want. Like so. Make sure you put your lid back on your powder, otherwise this stuff will go everywhere. And I mean everywhere. So, and then we just continue. Dab, dab, dab. All the way to the end. So if you do your tracks like this, let me know in the chat. If you don't do it like this, you do it another way, because there are so many different ways of doing it. I'm always looking for new ways of doing things, new hints, new tips. So let me know in the chat how you would do it. So that, I think, is that. Just have a look, see. Yep, so if we roll it, you can see there's a few places where it's not gone into. We'll just go around and we'll double check. Because the outside part is the more important part, because that is the part you're going to see the most of. So just roll your track around, have a look for those places where it hasn't really gone into the crooks and the nannies, because there will be a few places. The brush, the stippling effect will get it into most of the places, but not all of them. So keep on dabbing away. And the good thing about, if you mix too much of this stuff, as long as you've got more to do, it will dry out in the pot. You can break it back up in the pot and put it back into your pigments if you want to, or you can just save the pot for next time you're doing some of this. So there we go, I'm happy with that. So we're going to leave that to dry, like so. So we finish with this colour, we'll get that out of the way. Get another bit of tissue over here. We're going to clean our brush out. Nice and simple to do. Bit of water on the bench, like so. Just dip your brush in, clean it out. Get all that dust out. We'll get rid of all that pigment. Soak it up. Bit fresh. Make sure your brush is nice and clean. Of course it'll take quite a bit to get it all out when we're wobbling the camera. There we go, so we'll let that dry. We'll be back in a moment. And we've got a small piece of track here, which we've done the same, just that one colour. And the next step, I'm not going to show you on this great big huge one, I shall do that off camera. So on this little one here now, we are very gently going to take our nice dry brush, it's nice and dry now, and we are very gently going to take off some of this dust. Very gently, just taking off a very small amount, just where we think it wouldn't build up that much. So the middle section there, where the rubber or the steel of the wheels themselves are going to run across there, so we're taking a little bit off there. Let's bring this light down a little bit so we can see. You can see that. I think a little bit more. Very gently. Take that off. Take a look at the other side, see if there's anything to take off on that side. I don't think so. We're going to leave that like that for now, because we will be taking the top layer off when we are completely done. But for now, I'm happy with that as it stands. So if you look at that, and we compare it to this one, you can see we've just taken off a very thin layer down where the rubber is going to disappear. We're going to be doing this after every stage. So next colour, we're going to be using something a little bit dark, European Earth. Now we did do an experiment. There's a little cup to put some of that in, so you can see I've already used some. We did do a little experiment on another piece of track, and we have it here. Now this does have both colours on. It's very difficult to see, but it is there and you can see it, but it's not quite dark enough. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of black. So I have some Humbrol weathering powder. I've had this for almost 5 years now. It's one of the first powders I ever bought. So we're going to take some of this one, the European Earth. So tap the lid, make sure it's all off the lid, otherwise it just ends up everywhere. I'm going to take a small amount of this in there. That's all we're going to want. And same for the black, even smaller amount. Literally it's going to go in a very, very small amount. That should do us. Let's see how that mixes. I think that might be a little bit too dark, but let's take a look. Ooh, I just headbutt the camera again. A few drips of water. Let's mix her up. No, I think that's going to be quite good. We want it a little bit thinner, a little bit more water. There we go. That's going to be more than enough to do what we want to do. And all we're going to be doing, zoom in a little bit, see if we can see the difference. So, there's our piece. You can see we've taken off that centre. I'm going to start on the other side, and we're just going to go around Just add some of this darker stuff where we think. I'm going to try and keep my best to keep away from the edges. And we are just literally dabbing roughly, because we don't want it all over. So it darkens up that track a little bit. Focus, like so. And that's enough. We're going to do the same in here. Again, just very gently dab it on. Like I say, we're not going to need a huge amount of this. And again, we're just going to leave that now to dry off. And then we'll do the same again. We'll brush it all down. And then we're ready for the last colour. So, off camera, always the wrong way. Off camera, I'm going to put that to one side to dry. And I'm going to get all this piece done. Let it all dry. And we'll be right back. See you in a moment. Okay folks, so that is the second layer nice and dry. So we're going to do exactly the same again. We're going to brush down the centre of the tracks to clear off some of that down the centre, because this is where the wheels are going to be rolling on the tank. So just brush it away nice and gently, both sides, exactly the same as we did before. Flip it around. All the way down. I really do like these tracks when I'm using Hobbies. They fit together so well. As long as you take your time and you're careful with them, and they do stay together for the most part. If you're not so gentle with them, they do have a tendency to fall apart. So when I built this first one of these, the first track, once I've come to start working on it, it has started to fall apart. So I'm doing those individually. Thankfully they will click back together once we need to, but there's no point in me just forcing them back together now, because there's a good chance they might just come apart again. So there we go, that is the centre of those all brushed down and cleaned up. Quite happy with that. So again, that centre part is brushed down. So last colour we're going to be using is going to be the light sand, and we are literally just going to be going along the very edges with this colour, this very light colour, and it's going to be a lot thicker because we want it to be we want to have a lot more texture to it. So you can see there's already some in there where I've been playing and practicing. So again, we're just going to get a little bit more in there. Close that up, get it out of the way, otherwise it ends up all over the bench. A little bit of water, get our brush, get that all mixed up, like so. So there we go. So we are, like I say, very literally going to go very lightly, almost dry brushing, and we're not putting very much down at all. My brush is probably overloaded a bit there. Very lightly, or as lightly as you can. These big ham fists aren't very good at doing lightly. So once the brush starts to unload, you will need to start getting a bit more rough with it, shall we say, pressing a little bit harder. And of course, once this is all dry, we will very lightly go over it with a dry brush, just to blend it in a little bit. all the way down on that track, like so. So that is the underside done. We don't want any more than that. I'm quite literally just edging the track, like so. We'll flip her over and we'll do exactly the same again. So right on the very edges, very gently add in a little bit of texture. Let's zoom it in a bit so you can see a bit more of what's going on. So, see, a little bit on the brush, not too much. You want to flood it, almost like you're dry brushing, but not quite. And then you literally just dab in very small amounts onto the edge of the track, like so. Like I say, when this is all dry, we will come along, brush it back a little bit, not a huge amount, just a little bit, like we've done in the centre of the tracks, but not quite as heavy. Last little bit. And there we go, that is those tracks now done. I did most of that off camera, didn't I? I'll find out when I edit. So we're going to let that dry up. While that's drying up, of course, I do have the other parts to do. So I'm going to get these done off camera. And once that's dry, we'll brush it down, and then we have one last step to do, and that is the tank finished. So back in a moment. Okay folks, so once again we are now all dry, so we are going to very lightly now brush this off one last time. So I'm going to zoom you in so you can see what it is that we're doing. So as we've just done, we put that really light stuff on the outside edge, so we are literally now just going to, what's the best way to do this? Probably this way, and very very lightly, once again, is just very lightly take off a little bit of that dust, a very small amount, like so. Same on the other side. Not pressing very hard at all, we're literally just taking a very very thin bit off it, a thin bit off of it, just on those high points again. So we are looking like so. We do exactly the same on the other side, just like so. There we go, just like that, just so we do have some of the lighter colour, but not a huge amount. A little bit extra off, just there. There we go. So we have gone from this, it's quite bright, we've just toned it down a little bit, so it's like that, and like that. We can still see it, but there's not much of it there. So I'm going to get the rest of this done, and then we're on to our last little bit, which is putting a little bit of iron on the grips on the other side, and that will be the tracks completed. So I shall talk to you in a moment. Ta-ta. Okay folks, so that is those all dusted down, apart from one last little part. You can see both tracks are now together. There is quite a bit of variation in the tracks, different shades and colours and different thingy, which is what we were aiming for. Now all we need to do now is very gently go over the top, very much like we were dry brushing, just to take off some of the dust that's sitting right on the top of these tracks, because next we are going to be putting a little bit of paint down. We're going to be doing some dry brushing with some of the, not the chrome silver, it's going to be the dark iron. We want a darker iron colour than a really blatant, almost aluminium looking colour. So just going over anywhere where it looks like right on top of these links there's quite a bit of dust. We just want to clean it up a bit, because like I say, dry brushing some dark iron down next. So we zoom in, other way, always the wrong way. There we go. You can now see what the tracks look like, and like I say, there is some variance and different colours and whatnot inside the track. Oh, we're coming off there. Push that back in, which is what we want. We don't want them to be exactly the same all over. So like I say, all we need to do now is get down the dark iron, which is hiding somewhere up here. There we go. Took a moment to find it, but we found it. It was sitting right at the very back. So it'll be FV214 dark iron, and we're going to very gently dry brush this on. But first of all, I need to move these tracks out of the way, because we need to get this mat cleaned up and tidied up, because it's covered in dust and bits. So I'll get this tidied up, get it cleaned down, and we'll be right back. Okay folks, so we are now all tidied up. We are on to the last stage. We are going to be doing a very small amount of dry brushing with FV214, which is the dark iron, and nice and simple dry brushing. You want your paint, a brush to dry brush with, and a little cloth just to take away any excess paint out of the brush. Give this a good shake up. Okay. And all we're going to do, it's quite a nice colour this once it's on. It's almost got like a metallic tint to it. It's very, very dark, so it's quite nice. So we're literally just getting a little bit on the end of our brushes, taking away most of the excess, and then we are literally, let me zoom us in, take a look. You're very, very lightly just going to go over the top of these tracks, just to add that metallic tinge to them. So you can see we've done it there, we've not done it there. You can see the difference. Okay, so you just keep dabbing your brush in your paint pot, taking away that extra, and just work your way along the track. You can go in each direction, just to make sure you get it down equally, so to speak. And we are just going to work our way along the track like so. Just very lightly. You're not pressing down hard. Just very, very gently. I need to get the brush out of the way so you can see what's going on. Like that. And there we go. Very, very slight metallic touch to the track. We're also going to do the same on the other side, just on the guide teeth though. We'll do the same again, a little bit of paint on the brush, just come out a little bit, and we are literally just going to go over the top of these guide tracks like this, just add a little bit of metallic tinge to the edges. We may not see this on the tank, but we may, in between the wheels, so just like so, and then the same again on the other side. It's not a huge amount there, but it's just enough. Is that going to focus for me? There we go. Just enough around the edges of those teeth as though they've been rubbing on the wheels. Yeah, so we've got this side done and this side. So I am going to work on the rest of this track. So if I flip this over, hopefully you can see the difference where we've been. You may not see it at that distance. So we've dry brushed from here to about here. You can just about make it up. And as you can see, we're getting a very, very different effect all over the tracks, which is what I was looking for, because I don't want it to be uniform all the way across. I'm looking for that slightly different look in colour. So I'll get this finished. Put the lid on that for now. So I'm going to get this track work done. We will then get it on to the wheels. We'll get the rest of the tank made up and we'll be right back. Okay folks, so there we go. The tracks are complete and they are fixed and on. Well, they're not fixed, I can easily take them off, but they are in place. You can see they're not actually fixed in place, but you know what I mean. So that is effectively the tank complete. We're going to finish putting it together. The upper plate of the hull. Yep. So this literally just slides onto the back like so, and it just sits down on the front like so. We'll probably put a small dab of glue on there to hold it in place, and again the same on the back. And there we go, that is the upper hull on. And of course, last but not least, the main turret and gun. So be careful of these aerials, because I have knocked them off around probably about 15 times so far. So there we go, we are now complete and finished. One Centurion Mark 1 from Amusing Hobbies. So all I've got left to do now is take some beauty pictures. Those will come up at the end of the video. So how was the build? Very enjoyable. It didn't help with me having to change careers halfway through this build, because I started this several months ago and then just didn't want to do any sort of modelling at all. So it got put on the shelf and just stayed there for a while and never came to the bench very much at all. So glad it's finished, glad it's done. Amusing Hobbies, as always, very nicely made kits. They go together really, really easy. They are an absolute pleasure to build. And I would highly recommend any of the Amusing Hobbies stuff. This is my second Amusing Hobbies and I've got at least 2 or 3 more in the stash to do. So yeah, looking forward to them. So up next I've got something coming up. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but watch this space. And as always, thank you very much for watching and sticking with this channel. There's been no content for a long time, not real content. We've done the live shows, but that's about it. So yeah, thank you for sticking about and staying with us. So yeah, as always, be good, be safe, and keep making models, and we will see you next time. Ta-ta.